Hey guys, this is Jonathan here from your friendly neighbourhood Shooting The Breze podcast, and this is our recap of the UFC 200 event that took place last night. I've just finished watching it because I was working yesterday and slept all goddamn night. So, I'm going to start with the prelim to the prelims, and that was our three fights we had were Takanori Gomi versus Jim Miller, Gegard Mousasi versus Thiago Santos, and Joe Lozon versus Diego Sanchez. All three fights ended first round knockouts, or technical knockouts. So, Jim Miller defeated Takanori Gomi, Gegard Mousasi defeated Thiago Santos, and Joe Lozon defeated the original Ultimate Fighter Diego Sanchez. So the first fight that we had from the live prelims was the American Sage Northcutt versus the Spaniard Enrique Marin. Northcutt won by unanimous decision, but it was close at a couple of times because Marin almost had two successful Kimuras locked in and one very painful looking armbar. Northcutt managed to get out of it and used effective striking. Although it looked like he was kept on his back foot for a lot of the fight, he managed to secure the victory, and the future looks bright for the UFC's youngest active fighter, Sage Northcutt. So let's see what happens from him in the future. The next fight up was TJ Dillashaw versus Rafael Assunção. Dillashaw managed to win also by unanimous decision. This was the second time that they'd met, and they seemed to be very evenly matched fighters. So a rubber match would be great. I think that would be a good way to settle it, to see who was the best once and for all. The first two rounds were very intense, a lot of really hard, fast strikes by both fighters. Assunção definitely caught more strikes than Dillashaw. He was pretty bloodied up at one point. By the third round, Dillashaw pretty much knew that he had the fight in the bag, seemed to lay off on the intensity a little bit, went a bit more intelligent fighting, not throwing so many hands or kicks. He knew he was winning on points. It was a really great match and really well-deserved victory for Dillashaw. Next up was another unanimous decision victory, and that would become a very common end for a lot of the fights of the night. We had Kelvin Gastelum, the Ultimate Fighter winner, versus Johnny Hendricks. Gastelum, who was number 12, or was 12, in the welterweight division before the match. He showed great striking in the first round, really had Hendricks, it looked like he had his number. The second and third rounds, Hendricks seemed to get a bit more confident, knew what he was doing, but still kept on his back foot. Johnny had missed weight by 0.25 of a pound, so a quarter pound, which meant he had to give up 20% of his purse to Gastelum. But he tried to cut really hard for the fight, and probably that affected his performance in a lot of ways, because that's a big toll to take on your body. So he looked very drained, especially in the closing round, but hats off to him, because for the final 10-15 seconds both guys, they stood and they banged, they just threw punches. Gastelum came away with a really hard earned win and should be looking to climb up that ladder. Hopefully we'll see some really good stuff from him in the next couple of fights. So the last of our preliminary fights was an absolute ground game clinic put on by Juliana Pena, who defeated Kat Zingano via unanimous decision. Zingano came out really strong in the first round, used effective takedowns and pummeling. She definitely had that round in the bag. She came out into the second round and scored two absolute highlight reel takedowns, but she gave up position. Juliana Pena managed to take advantage, gain dominance. They both showed amazing cardio, to be fair, straight through all three rounds, but Pena managed to keep her dominant position and secure the victory over Kat Zingano. Great match though, absolutely great. So opening up the main card, the first fight we had was Cain Velasquez versus Travis Browne. There was a bit of a question mark around Cain Velasquez coming into this fight, as we spoke about on the most recent episode of the podcast, with some long-standing injuries. We weren't sure what kind of condition he would be in. But he came out looking very calm, very composed, as did Travis Browne. and Velasquez managed to spin off a beautiful roundhouse wheel kick. Really knocked or rocked Travis. Followed up with a 1-2 punch and brought Travis Browne down to the mat. Eventually used the ground and pound to put away Travis Browne with just 3 seconds left on the clock in the first round. Velasquez was very professional, very respectful of his opponent. It was great to see. Hopefully now any sort of fears that we had about Velasquez's condition are going to be put to bed. And I'll be really looking forward to see how he takes on his next battle. What was probably the most anticipated fight for the hardcore fight fans, we had Jose Aldo defending his title against Frankie Edgar. They'd met before in a really explosive match. Everyone was, it's something that's been raved about. It's not so much a rivalry because the guys are very respectful of each other, but they're matched so evenly, I think, that people were just dying to see them come together again. After a tentative first round, Edgar pushed forward harder and it became clear that Aldo's game was going to be counter-striking. Edgar was working hard to close the gap between the two so he could use some of his close quarters boxing. We knew that was his strength. He'd been working with his striking coach, Mark Henry, who you could hear shouting from the cage side, shouting instructions, but Edgar couldn't manage to get through Aldo's defence. And the counter-striking was really adding up. You could see that Edgar was getting more and more injured. There was a lot of blood coming from his nose and from the corner of his right eye. By the round 5, their faces really told the story of the fight because Aldo still looked pretty fresh and Edgar was really bloodied up. There was some tasty moments between them. Nothing that ever looked like it was going to end the fight, but it was still a great fight to watch. A really hard-earned victory by Aldo. To myself, proved that he was the better fighter, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what Frankie Edgar comes up with next. If they fight again, great, happy to see it, but Jose Aldo definitely proved that he's the champ. It's a difficult defeat for Frankie Edgar for sure because he put in a great fight. Proved himself to be a worthy challenger, and in the 5th round of the fight clocked or became the first man in UFC history to clock 6 hours of octagon time. So congratulations Frankie Edgar, a true legend of the sport. Next up was quite a strange one. We had Daniel Cormier take on Anderson Silva, obviously thrown together on like 48 hours notice after John Jones's drug suspension scandal, embarrassment, let's call it that. Cormier was intent on using his wrestling to ground Silva, trying to curb the Brazilian's striking skills and to gas him. Silva's fitness was a bit of a question coming in because he had taken the fight in such short notice. That fight should have been a main event for Daniel Cormier. He should have been in the main event with John Jones. And what happened was it ended up a great disappointment because the fans booed the shit out of the performance because both of the guys, Silva and Cormier, they looked really listless. Neither of them seemed particularly interested in ending the fight. Their stand-up was really lackadaisical, and Cormier was training for a 5-round fight. Looked by the end of the 3rd round like he couldn't have gone another 2 rounds, sorry. Had that Daniel Cormier fought John Jones, then John Jones would have won. Hands down, plain and simple. Daniel Cormier just did not look ready for that at all. The match will be remembered probably as a black mark on the otherwise stellar UFC 200 cards, and an unnecessary loss in Anderson Silva's legendary MMA career. So the co-main event that we had for UFC 200 was the very highly anticipated return of Brock Lesnar, who would take on the Super Samoan Mark Hunt, and a lot of people thought that Lesnar was going to be pretty outmatched by the Super Samoan. He's pretty much known for his knockout power. Lesnar did look very uncomfortable coming out in the first round. Was definitely not happy to be standing up against Hunt. So shot in, using his wrestling skills, took Hunt down, trying to utilise the ground and pound. In the second round though, it looked like Hunt really had Lesnar's number because he kept stuffing and sprawling the attempts. So I think Lesnar was starting to get a bit of the fear. But come the 3rd round, Lesnar managed to get him down again, utilised some hammer fists, his ground and pound technique. It wasn't an overly impressive performance, but the fact that he did defeat Mark Hunt does say something about Brock Lesnar. He secured the victory, done well for himself, and now we just need to wait and see what he comes up with next and where he goes. And if there's anyone who can run a WWE and UFC career simultaneously, it's going to be Brock Lesnar. And so the main event of the card was the Women's Bantamweight Championship match. The champion Miesha Tate defending her title against Amanda Nunes. The start of the round, the first round, they came out feeling each other out. Eventually Tate was getting the better of the takedowns. Coming up from one of the takedowns, Amanda Nunes swung a knee to Tate's head, narrowly missing her. That would have been an illegal knee, could have cost her the match. Then eventually Nunes got through with some pretty good boxing skills, got into Tate's defence, got through that and landed a really nice right punch, and it rocked the champion big time. But she stayed on her feet for a good 30 seconds, but she was really badly rocked, and she started to eat some hands. Eventually Tate was pretty bloodied up, and she went down to the mat in a defensive position, giving up her back to Nunes, who jumped on and sunk in the rear naked choke 3 minutes and 16 seconds into the fight. Amanda Nunes 316 says, "I just tapped your ass." So it was a really good finish. It was a good fight. Amanda Nunes, she's going to be a pretty good champion, I think. That won her the Women's Bantamweight Championship and a Performance of the Night bonus. The other recipients of that were Gegard Mousasi, Joe Lozon and Cain Velasquez. Overall, the UFC 200 event was a success. It was well received. The winners are going to be looking on to what their next challenge is, and the losers will go back to the gym and see where they go from there. I'm sure they'll come back stronger. But that's all from your Shooting The Breze podcast. Again, I'm Jonathan Napier. Follow us on Facebook, Shooting The Breze, Instagram, Shooting The Breze, all one word. Twitter at Shooting Breze, and all of those are BREZE. Obviously you can find us on iTunes, you can find us on our Libsyn site, which is shootingthebreze.libsyn.com, and we'll hopefully have another podcast up for you guys this coming week. So thanks again, and keep it breezy.